Welcome to Envisioning Your Future and Goal Setting, brought to you by the UMass Amherst Alumni Association. Hello, my name is Karen Schultz-Battistoni, and I am the Director of Alumni Volunteer Relations at UMass Amherst and the Alumni Association. And with me is Joe Piderfeit, class of 2006, and MBA class of 2020. He is a regional alumni officer in the Alumni Relations Office. So welcome everybody. The two of us are going to be the ones behind the scenes helping to facilitate the session. So I'm going to just show you at the bottom of your screen, you should see a chat box. And in that box, you can put any questions that you might have for us, any comments. If you need a clarification, feel free to put anything like that in the chat box as people are talking. You don't need to wait until we're done with the talking portion before we get to the Q&A. Feel free to just put it in there as you think of it. I want to introduce today's panel. So for today's session, we have 5 alumni with different backgrounds and different degrees. We're very excited to be able to have everybody here with us today. So I'm going to introduce each of the speakers, and then we're going to get into the session topics. One thing I just want to make people aware of is that we can't clearly answer every question on goal setting and creating a vision for your future in 1 hour, and we acknowledge that. We're going to do the best that we can to give you some concrete, actionable steps and to give you some thoughts so that you can move forward with planning, creating vision boards, helping to surround yourself with people that can help you to achieve your goals. And hopefully you will find today's session helpful as you put together your steps towards moving to a future that is something that excites you. So thank you for joining us. So to start off, we have Francois Exelome, who earned his BA and BDIC in 2001, and he's currently the Assistant Director for Admissions at Boston College. We also have Evren Gundez, who earned his BS in Earth Systems and Music in 2004, and he's the CEO and co-founder of Enjoy Life Education. We have Mike Spector, who earned his BA and BDIC in 2019, and he's an independent music artist. And then we have Gregory Walters Jr., who earned a BA in Afro-American Studies and a 5 colleges certificate in Film Studies in 2009. And he's currently a program manager with Fluent Stream. And then we have Caitlin Wilson, who earned her BS in psychology in 2019. And she's currently a research assistant at Harvard University and Cambridge Health Alliance. All right. So just a brief overview of what we are going to talk about today. So today's topics, we're going to talk a little bit about creating a vision for your life. That's where we're going to start. Then we'll talk about identifying your purpose, goal setting at work, vision boards, and finding people to support your vision and goals. So we're very thankful that all of these alumni from UMass were willing to come and share and offer some insights into this topic, but we also hope that this session can be relevant for you and your needs. So as I said, feel free to put any questions into the chat box as we go on. I am just going to stop the slides and everyone's cameras should be up. Okay, there's Evren. All right, so to start off, as we talked about it, the 5 of us talked about this topic quite a bit, and everyone had a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and we decided that we would like to start with creating a vision for your life. So Evren, Mike, and Caitlin, if you want to jump in and talk a little bit about that to start us off tonight. You are muted, Evren.
Thank you,
there you are. Okay.
For that, Karen, and for having us. Hello, UMass alumni. Great to be on this webinar with you all. Excited to share anything that we can with you about vision and goal setting for your life. So we'll get right to it. First and foremost, I think a lot of people love the idea of setting goals, and the word goal is just such a buzzword, and everyone whether you're a student, whether you're in college, whether you're in a career, everywhere you go, you're setting goals and people are having you set goals. And goals are great. There are these tangible things that we're going after, and they sort of keep us on track. But what we know is that so many people out there set goals, and very few of them actually achieve the goals that they set. I think I read somewhere that less than 40% of goals that are actually set are ever even achieved. And I think that what we've looked at Enjoy Life Education and working with our students and the research we've done is that part of the problem is before you set a goal, no one's really setting any sort of reason why that goal is important or what they want their life to become. I think setting a goal before you have a vision for your life and what you want to become as a person is like building a house without a foundation. So the very first thing that we have our students do at our Leadership Academy and in our programming is we have them set a vision for their life. We think a vision for your life is about who you want to become as a person. A goal is more about what you want to achieve. A goal is a very singular, concrete, one-off. I know when I get there, there it is, and then it sort of is gone and it's time to set a new vision. Versus a new goal versus a vision is something that you become, a sort of transformation in your identity. So to set a vision, we usually have our students, and what we like to do in this process is, what is it that you want your life to become? Do you want to become a more positive person? Do you want to become more organized? Do you want your life to be more lucrative in your career? Do you want to be more empowered and happy? Do you want to become more fit? Do you want to become a person that is more resilient and handles challenges better? I think setting a vision for that identity part of what you want to become is so important before you take any steps towards setting a goal. A more concrete way to think of this vision is in terms of an example we use is a lot of people say, I want to run a 5K. Someday I want to run a 5K. And I think that's a great goal to set, but set a vision for what you want to become within that 5K. What is it that you want your identity to shift toward? I want to become a runner. I want to become a more fit person. And those kinds of visions for your identity shift really will help you make your goal a little bit more substantial and sticky so that you've got something to drive toward. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike and Caitlin, and they're going to talk about purpose and why that's really important towards setting goals after you set your vision.
Yeah, I mean, I think the purpose or the why for your vision, your goal is really important. And I think in order to have like everyone said, a sticky vision, sticky goals, things that will last a long time, it's important to be passionate and identify that why ahead of time, or else, it'll be hard to stay motivated in your vision and in your goal setting. And I think, if you're doing something because it looks good on paper or because maybe it's motivated by other people, it's not a real true passion that you have for yourself. And if that's the case, then it'll be a lot harder to truly become and embody who you want to be through the vision and the goal setting.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully put. I think in terms of just figuring out what your purpose is from square one, like starting from scratch, I would say something to look for is just the world around you and looking at some systemic problems that we have, for example, and how you might think you will fit in to the equation of solving them. Like something just to give you guys an example to help, something that I care a lot about and just feel intrinsically motivated and gravitated towards is the mental health field. And as a musician, a singer-songwriter, I just have been thinking a lot, like, how can I get my foot in the door for that? How do these two worlds collide? And for me personally, just in terms of feedback, one of the best pieces of feedback that I get is, oh, wow, your music has really helped to calm me down or gave me a release from my anxiety for a brief moment. And so when I hear things like that, I'm like, ooh, ding, ding, ding. That is my actual real life work becoming some sort of help to a larger systemic issue. And looking for cues like that and little hints of how can my work, whatever it may be, how can it relate to a larger systemic issue? That's really, really going to be key in helping to set your purpose and your why.
Yeah, and my last thought about that, I also think, oh, sorry, Karen. I
No,
think
go ahead.
it's also
Go ahead.
your purpose and your passion and your why. I think they can change frequently along with your values, because our values, they're not, I mean, we have some core values, but I think our values shift a lot with our context and the people we meet and, you know, our hobbies and things like that. So I think just knowing that it's okay for your purpose and your why to shift over time is good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as the next step I know that we talked about after purpose was goal setting and a little bit about SMART goals. So Francois, Everin, and Greg, if you want to take the lead on this part.
Absolutely, thank you, and appreciate the opportunity to share with everyone. SMART goals. So first, you heard about vision and your why. So the vision is the why. The SMART goals is the how, right? And so SMART is an acronym for a specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So a lot of times when we set a goal for ourselves, we have these grandiose, ideas. So, I want to be wealthy. I want to be able to take care of my family. But those are definitely the end result of what you want. But in order to get to that point, you need to be able to bring it back and have some actionable steps to get to the point. Specific, how do you plan on getting there? Is it paying off, your credit cards over a specific, over time? Is it saving more money? And so once you get that idea about it, then you want to get very specific with that. I want to be able to save, let's just use savings as an example, $100 a month until I am able to pay off these credit cards, and then I'll grow that incrementally and continue to grow it. Measurable, being able to mark it down and have somewhere that you can see it growing over that time. So using that same wealth analogy, just being able to take a look at your bank account and see that you're putting that money in and watching it grow. Attainable, is it something that's attainable? So for instance, if you are, in complete debt, does it make sense for you to pay off your credit cards first and then, start saving that money? And so it's not attainable if you have more money going out than coming in. And so then you'd have to adjust the goal so that you say, you know what, I have to pay all of these bills first, but I can start with $20 a month. And then as those decrease, I can increase what I'm saving towards. So that's important. Realistic, how realistic are your goals? And sometimes it's really easy. And I know I'm one of those people, I'm a big thinker. I'm always trying to go above and beyond. And so anytime that I put a goal together, I want to make sure that it is realistic. And that's actually kind of tied with the T, which is the timely. So if I am trying to, save $1,000 and I say I'm going to do that in 3 months, but yet I haven't been able to do that in a year because I have all of these expenses that I have to take care of, then I'm not setting myself up for success. I'm actually setting myself up for failure. And so you want to absolutely make sure that all of these, are things that you can plan out. And the whole thing that encapsulate the SMART goal is just these 3 words: plan, do, review. You plan it out, you do it, then you review to see where you're at. And if you need to make adjustments, then you make adjustments along the way. I'll just end with this part, and then I'll turn it over to Greg and Efren. Is a quick story about a rocket ship. Most people don't know when a rocket launches into space, it's actually off course 95% of the time. The thing that keeps it on course is the gyroscope that continually measures and readjusts. And if we use that same way of understanding how things get done and then apply it to our own lives and continue to adjust to get to our end goal, it'll definitely help. And so with that, let me turn it over to my colleagues, Greg and Efren.
Cool. No, I think that was well said. And I think what's crazy is, and I know that we'll get into it in a little bit, but just to kind of, for a little bit of foreshadowing, this is too poignant to kind of what's going on right now. In my job, I have to do goal setting. Like today, my goals were due and I had to put those into a system. And then I actually literally have to have a meeting tomorrow with my team to kind of go over those goals and review those goals. And so I think it's just, for me, it's like, it's one of those things where if you learn how to kind of do this kind of way of thinking and kind of looking at kind of the world through goal setting and kind of planning, it starts to kind of make things not so overwhelming. And then you get to a point where you can really kind of chunk things up and kind of, conquer things a little bit easier. I think, one of the things with planning is everybody's been there when they've done those all-nighters and crammed. I remember, I'll never forget my first all-nighter at UMass. I was at the library before it was 24 hours. And I remember that bell going off at 11, ding. And I knew I had to stay up all like late. And it hurt, but then it was a reality check. I was like, man, I can't do this again. And then it's just from there, it's like you just learn that you don't want to be behind the 8 ball, and then you're just kind of leveraging goals. I think one of the biggest things, and then I'll pass it on to Everin, is being realistic. I think for me, I'm very passionate. I'm a very excited person. I'm able to, come up with grand ideas, but at the same time, being very realistic about your goals is also key. And it's okay to have your passion and have goals, but also being able to define those goals and use these tools kind of help bring out more creativity and bring out those things, because you're able to then be like, you know what, I have a way of expressing my ideas. I need some tools on how to define my ideas, and that's kind of why we're here today.
Oh man, Francois, Greg, right on. And the goal setting process is such a beautiful, the way you set it up as a SMART goal, and then the way you just frame it, it's such a beautiful, concrete way of doing things. And I think what's really important about goal setting, and first and foremost, setting your vision and your purpose and your why first before you get there. I think what's important about this whole process is that reflection piece. And the only thing I'll add on, and it's not really an add-on, it's just sort of bringing it to light again, is we live our lives moving forward, but we learn looking backwards. We can't learn as we're driving the car forward. We like make our turn. We are going through life. And like you said, Greg, you go pull that all-nighter and you realize after the fact that, man, that didn't feel right. I want to change some things about me. I want to change a little bit about who I am as a person. And then you create your purpose as to, well, why do you want to make that change? Well, it didn't feel right. It didn't make me totally empowered or whatever it is. And I think it's so important that along the goal setting process, you are constantly in review mode. Life is always in review mode. If you're just setting a goal and you're going after it and you forget to look back and realize what you're learning along the way and how it's changing you and how it's impacting you and whether that goal is even important, maybe your purpose changes, your why, your motivation is different. You got to be able to recognize that and constantly look backwards in order to make your rocket ship forward not be so off course. Just a little bit at a time is okay, but you never know that unless you have that review.
Okay, that was great. I think as we go further on, it looks like we're starting to get some questions into the chat box, which is great. So we're going to go a little bit further with some of the other concepts talked about prior to the event. And then my hope is that we can really turn this over to the audience and really dig in and get to all the questions that you have. So thanks. Keep having them come in. We're collecting them, and we're going to turn the corner to all questions in just a moment. So the next thing that we wanted to talk about was vision boards and how this can be a tool to help you achieve your goals. So Francois, if you want to talk a little about this one.
Absolutely. I actually learned about vision boards, back after I graduated from UMass through two people. One was through Oprah. When Oprah had her shows, she had a whole segment on vision boards. And I was like, that's interesting. But then I got into sales. And part of what I learned through sales was being able to visualize what your goals are. So all it really is now visualizing. There's a saying that goes, seeing is believing. But I actually like to look at it as believing is seeing before it gets there, right? And so that's what it's all about. It's all about visualizing and being able to. And so instead of just a dream board, I actually have a dream book, and it's called, and I wrote it's Motivations. And this was started back in 2007, like I said, when I started doing some sales. And then I was like really young and just learning different things. And I'll show you some of the things. This here is 2007. This was actually a profiles of success. So in the company I was with, you got recognized for hitting certain sales goals, and you got it, into this big book that everybody got the chance to see. You signed it, and I said, you know what, I want to be in this. And I put it in there. It was a lofty goal. It was just something I said, you know what, let's see what happens and just try for it. And it's interesting, and I'm sure some of you have heard about The Secret and different things, like when you put things out in the universe, it conspires to help you. And it was really something that I thought about it. I put it down there. I worked towards it, but I didn't work that hard towards it. But at the end of it, I actually got into the profiles of success, and that was pretty cool. And the rest of it was, I grew up in Dorchester. I'm a first generation, person in this country. And, just seeing what other people had and the lack that, we had in our communities, just being able to see new things. So I just, threw some, nice cars that I wanted in there, vacations that I wanted to have, because growing up, we had staycations. I don't know how many of you have gone through that, but it was just, everybody staying home and we played in the backyard. And so I wanted to make sure that I had a chance to have that with my family and be able to go and enjoy times and beautiful places like this. And as a result, it became something that was ingrained in me. And then when I got married and we started having a family, my wife and I decided, hey, we're going to go away on vacation, give the children, they get to stamp their passport before, the first time I stamped my passport, I think I was like 26, 27. And they're like 11 and 5 and have more stamps in their passport than I did by the time I was, 5 times their age. And so that's pretty cool. And just different things. It's just a way to just continue to, dream big, see different ways. And there are different tools you can use. When I did this, the best way to do it was just to get a magazine, cut out some paper, cut it out and put it in a book. Nowadays, we have all these virtual tools that you can use. You can go online and just create a digital dream board if that's something that you'd like to do. But it's a way of just keeping it in your mind. The subconscious is a very powerful thing. And we think about our conscious most of the time where we're actively thinking. But there's a reason why, and then I'll turn it over to the next segment, but there's a reason why what we listen to, what we watch on TV is called programming. Is because we're programming ourselves to look at certain things, and then all of a sudden it starts playing in your subconscious. And sometimes because of the negative programming that we've gotten from what we've seen on TV, from our communities that we're around, from other people that we have, so we have to kind of break that mold and start reprogramming ourselves with what we want in our lives versus what other people are telling us we should have in our lives. And so that's what the Dream Board does for you. And hopefully you'll get a chance to create one of your own and continue to work towards those visual goals.
That was great, Francois. I just want to make one point too, that it doesn't always need to be a whole gigantic board. I know sometimes people are overwhelmed by that. I know for me, when I started college, I decided I wanted to study abroad. So what did I do? I stuck the map up of the country I wanted to go to on the wall. So there's simple ways to do it too. Maybe you start with one picture or one image, or you save it on your phone as your background or something like that. And that can help you to take those steps and to see it every day too. So now, as we've talked about visions and goals, the other thing we need to talk about is how do you find those people that are going to support you on this journey, right? You're probably going to be discovering things, reflecting on things, and how do you find those people? So Mike, if you want to talk with us a little bit about that. You're muted right now.
There we are. Okay,
All right,
cool.
no worries.
So yeah, for me, and I mean for all of our panelists, and pretty much everyone, you can never escape the need for community in pretty much anything that you do. You are always going to need a network and a community of people to help get you to where you want to go. It's really hard to be successful in a vacuum. And so I would say a huge thing for me just recently that I've kind of been thinking about as far as building my network is sometimes people will, you'll reach out to someone you're really excited about and you're like, okay, I think I can really vibe with this person. I think we can really like jive well and help each other out. Sometimes, as we say at the Leadership Academy, which Evren founded, rejection is the spice of life. And so basically, sometimes people will say, no, I don't want to be a part of your network for whatever reason. And this is kind of something I've been thinking a lot about lately, especially being out in LA now. People are networking all over the place, lots of musicians, lots of artists, and people being in the same fields. You're like, you can meet hundreds of them, not as much during COVID, but in regular life, you're meeting all sorts of different possible people in your network all the time. And a mantra that I have taken pretty seriously to just kind of like sort through everything and help the networking process be the most painless is that it's never personal. As a permanent, always true thing, even when it feels so personal, it's never personal. Anyone who is with you 50%, maybe that's not someone who you want to have in your network. It's really about finding people who are going to support you and support you genuinely. And then obviously giving that in return. It's really great to support other people, other artists, other entrepreneurs as well. That can go a really long way. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. Greg, Francois, if you guys want to hop in, add your 2 cents as well.
Sure, yeah.
The floor is yours.
Happy to hop in real quick. I think it's important to just, for me, ignore the noise. I've had some grandiose goals when I was young. Wanted to work in television. And, I worked hard and made goals and I made it happen. And I was able to go through and work in television and finally kind of, transcend into to kind of from television into, another career. But all that's to say is, through the process is you got to stay true to yourself. And I think, one of the things that helped me a lot along the way is in terms of finding rejecting the negative person is more so looking at, finding that person is more positive in terms of a mentor. Finding a mentor is one of the best things you can do in your career, especially if you're in a position to grow within an industry or a place that you want to grow in. You're probably looking at your mentor right now, don't even know it. And it's like one of those things that where you just need to take that time to, if the conversation fits and makes sense, you have that conversation. And if it doesn't go the way you have it, you just take it with like, well, I tried, and you just move on. But you have to try, but it's a numbers game. And what's going to happen is somebody's going to say yes. And when that person says yes, they're going to go 100% to 200% because what you're bringing is what they've wanted and what they've been looking for. And I think you just have to stay true to that and remember that it's okay to have your ideas and it's okay to, be very, very grand, but remembering to be realistic and remembering that not everybody's going to see it the way you see it because the way you see it is the best way to see it because you know why? That's the way we want it, and that's just, and I can pass that on to Francois, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So finding somebody, I agree with everyone, is just networking, right? And so either joining networking groups or just start asking people, who do you know? You know, it's really as simple as that. You know, if you want to get into the music scene, for instance, and you know, you're a you know, composer, writer, and say, hey, who do you know that's, you know, that is willing to help somebody who's trying to figure this out? Know, and sometimes I'm kind of strategic like this, where the person that I know I want to work with, sometimes I would go to them and say, hey, who do you know that's willing to mentor me or somebody like myself? And a lot of times, if they have the time, they'll say, hey, this is what I do. I can definitely help you out. And if they don't have the time, they are already part of that network, and they may find somebody or share somebody that would have the time with you. And so you just never know, just by asking. And Greg kind of talked about, you know, a category I called dream killers or dream stealers. And so you definitely want to kind of be careful when you're sharing your dreams with people. And part of it is because you'll have people that'll tell you, no, that'll never work. And they're talking about it from their own experience. And sometimes people aren't doing it maliciously, but it's because they're thinking about, you know what, I got burned doing this. And so they're trying to save you the pain, not knowing that it's a different time, you're a different person, it's a different, you know, everything's different about the situation. And so you want to make as you are going towards your goal and planning that out and trying to find that mentor and network, that you kind of develop what I call rhino skin, right? So rhinos, you know, they can't pierce through it, right? And so you just have to be able to, you know, take what people tell you with a grain of salt. And like Mike said, it's never personal, you know, and so you just want to make sure that you continue to just find those, and eventually you'll find like-minded people. And that's where the mastermind comes in. When you're able to find like-minded people that are want to go the same place that you're going, or have already been there and they're willing to guide you there. So networking is definitely key to success. One of the keys to success.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you all for talking us through all the different topics. So now we want to give some time to turn it over to the questions that have come in through the chat box and also through registration. So I'm going to turn it over to Joe, and he's going to bring up the questions that people have submitted, and whoever wants to chime in and answer them, or some of them Joe might be able to direct to certain people. So take it away, Joe.
Oop, it would help if I muted myself. Thanks, everybody. I think so far this has been really great. So this first question is for, I guess, Francois, since you kind of started talking about, you know, how important networking is. How would you suggest, or what advice would you have for someone who can be sort of an introvert, to sort of get better or practice at networking? I know sometimes that can be the first hurdle to get over is being able to walk into that room or go up to someone and introduce yourself.
I think you're on mute right now, Francois.
Thank you. So easy to do that. It's interesting because I started off as an introvert, and I think I've talked my way to becoming an extrovert. But it is a challenge. I remember how hard it was for me to speak to people and be able to put myself out there. And so one of the things I did was exactly what I talk about. It was more of a passive ask than an active ask. And so when you're kind of taking that heat off of you, and instead of saying, hey, will you be my mentor? I would ask a question about, hey, who do you think would be a mentor for me, or can help me? It felt a little bit different. And I know as an introvert, that's, you know, it's one of those things where you're putting yourself out there, and it's more of the fear of rejection than it is anything else. And so not being as forward was an easier way for me to start doing that. One of the things I will say about being able to get out your comfort zone, which is going to be, it's an important skill to have and get out of it. And I actually don't call it getting out. It's called expanding your comfort zone. I call it, it's almost like kneading dough. Anytime you go out there and you do something that you're uncomfortable doing, you kind of stretch yourself, but then you come back in. You're not completely out of it, right? So you stretch and then you come back in. But here's the great part about that is the fact that you're never back where you originally were at, right? So when you stretch and you come back in, you weren't back here. You're a little bit further out, and it becomes a little easier the more you do that. Other ways to do it, especially in the time of COVID, it makes it a little bit easier. The fact that you can do things online, and so you can do meetups, LinkedIn groups, and being able to, I think for me, when I was an more introverted, having that distance of a computer screen was a lot easier than being in person. So maybe doing something virtually may help as well as you continue to expand your comfort zone and do those type of networking events.
That's great. Thank you. And I know I speak for a couple of us on this call who had George Parks as one of their mentors. And one of the biggest things that he would say is get comfortable being uncomfortable. So I think that's sometimes too a good way to look at it. You're growing yourself and, trying out new things. Anybody else have any thoughts about that?
I do actually. Yeah. So I think a huge part of, or a huge obstacle to kind of conquer in terms of expanding your network, whether it's introverts or extroverts, I feel like anyone can relate to this in some way, shape, or form, but just like the social anxiety part of like meeting people in your field. There can be like imposter syndrome, like, am I actually supposed to be in this field? Like, what if they find out that I'm like a phony, and like things like that? All these like thoughts can go through your head as you're trying to network and meet people that can be in your court. So in lieu of that, I would highly recommend just like practicing self-compassion and trying to find your own value actually outside of your field. I feel like especially it can feel like life or death, sometimes, to try to like when you're set on like, okay, this is my purpose, this is my vision, and I want this person to be in my network, like everything rests on this. It's so easy to feel like that, but it's not life or death. You're still going to be a valuable person at the end of the day, whether you make that connection or not. And I feel like especially since we're all from Massachusetts, it's very easy to equate your success in your work with your own value. We were raised on from the Puritans. That's how Massachusetts got started. It was like work, work, work. That's your value. And I would recommend, as far as this type of thing goes, to find value within yourself that's actually outside of your like work sphere. And that will definitely help to just sort of ease the pressures of the networking. It's going to be a lot easier and more fluid, and it won't feel like life or death. So that's my recommendation there.
Great. Thank you so much. So our next question is, it's kind of a combination of a couple different questions that we got in. With goals and stuff that are changing all the time, how do we know sort of which ones are right for us to pursue? And how would we sort of go about sort of prioritizing those goals? I think we maybe might have talked a little bit about this with the SMART goals. So I don't know if maybe Greg or Everin or someone, Everin, you want to go ahead and take that one?
Yeah, I'll start with it, and I'm sure Greg can jump in if you'd like, or Francois. First and foremost, I think when you're trying to figure out what you're going to become with your life, it's a little bit of trial and error. It's about what Caitlin talked about with what is your purpose for what you want to become? Why do you want to do it? The big why question, figuring out your passion for it is really important. I like to think of our passions in life as sort of I measure it in the snoozes. So for instance, we all have an alarm clock. We have it on our phones these days, and we wake up in the morning to an alarm clock, and there's a number of things that can happen. We can either jump out of bed with a ton of energy for the day ahead, and we don't even need the alarm clock. We get up 10 minutes before it even goes off, and we say, ha, I beat you, alarm clock. Or the alarm clock goes off and we hit one snooze. We're like, all right, I think I'm ready for this day and what's ahead. Or we're hitting it twice or 3 times or 4 or 5. The number of snoozes that you hit in the morning determines how passionate you are about the life you're living and the day that you're about to have. And I think if you start to do a little calculation, think about where you are, and when you get up in the morning, are you excited about the day that you're going after? If you set a goal, a vision, a purpose, and now you're on day number 1 of going after it, and by the time you get to day number 10, you're like, this just doesn't feel right. I just want to stay in bed today. I'm going to hit the snooze button twice. That's a sign. And it's a sign of your heart and your passion that you have for that thing. I think that when you have so many goals and pursuits, it's impossible to get everything done in life. Our time on this earth is finite. So I think we have to really start. It goes back to what we talked about early on. Start with a vision for what's really important to you. What is it that above all else, you're like, well, in the next 10 years, I've got 5 things. Which one am I most passionate about? Which one makes me come alive? Which one lights me up when I look at it? And which one, when I wake up in the morning, I think to myself, I can't wait to dig into that particular aspect of my life, or that particular field, or that particular work that I have to do. And just really listening to your heart and reading your affect and your emotions around the goals that you set. When you set a goal, do you get just pumped up to get after it the next day, or do you set it and sort of forget it, like the rotisserie chicken commercial from many generations ago? And then you leave it there and you're like, oh, okay, I'll get to that at some point. I think passion is such an important part of it, in reading your own self and how it makes you feel when you wake up in the morning to pursue it.
I think to kind of echo that, one of the things that I kind of have been doing since college, and actually since high school, is just as an amateur DJ. And that was something that I really kind of just picked up just to kind of, it's kind of a hobby. And then all of a sudden it out here during kind of like, being laid off and not having a job when I first moved out here, it was like great money turned into something that I'm doing regularly. And it all started with just a goal, but why I love it is like, I don't even have to think. Like, it's just like, yeah, I want to do it. It's like, I don't even have to worry. It's like, I'm just so excited every single time. So like, for example, case in point, I gig on Thursday nights, and it's one of the things that I look forward to, because it's like, it's no longer a job, because I've taken a goal and a passion of mine and turned it into something that I want to do. And how I get better is by being in the moment, learning within that passion is, okay, how can I be better at, like, all right, getting clients, being better at music, being better at just kind of like working the crowd. It's just, when you don't have to think about going somewhere or trying that hard, you give it your all and it's easy. It's like riding a bike.
Yeah, I definitely echo. The interesting part is, for me, and till this day, the word purpose is kind of scary for me. Only because it feels like such this thing that if I don't achieve my purpose, then I didn't come to do, I didn't do what I was put on this earth to do. And so I actually like the word purpose, passion a lot better, because it is one of those things that, as Everin mentioned, like, what excites you, what gets you up in the morning. And I actually used why as an acronym, WHY. It's like, what helps you? Like, what helps you get up in the morning? Or it could be what hurts you. Like, what causes you so much, like, this is so crazy that, you know what, I want to fix this particular problem. Like, my wife, she's a neat freak. Like, she is the type of person, she gets up, she sees things that I don't see. And she's just like, you know what, and I tell her all the time, she should start her own like cleaning business, because she actually finds joy and peace in that. And so sometimes when you find something that either irks you and then you find a way to make it better or that you enjoy, and those are the things that keep you going, then, then you're aligned with what some would call your purpose, but definitely it falls in line with your passion. And I'll leave with one more thing, because the question was, if you have multiple things going on, part of the question, if you have multiple things going on, how do you prioritize it? I would look at it from a stance of, if, depending on what your goals are, is one of those, whatever you prioritize, will it kind of cover some of the other goals that you have in place? So, sometimes you have something that you have set up and you're like, I want to reach this career, and then I want to have the home, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. Those are all my goals. How do I prioritize that? Well, will the career give you the salary that you need to get the home, and then continue on and cascade down that way? And so, that's how I kind of prioritize things. And the last thing I would share is, sometimes our goals aren't really like so grandiose. It's like, I want to learn a new instrument. I want to do something that's fun. I want to travel. I want to do, so those are goals as well. And so, part of it is just figuring out how to do it and just setting those SMART goals to say, and start small and continue to grow those goals, as we mentioned before, with the SMART goals, to get to where you'd like to be.
Great, thank you. So our next question is, as an older adult, what advice would you have for re-envisioning my career? And how would I market myself for a new job? So maybe it's a career pivot, or, they're looking to branch out into something different. So anyone have any thoughts about that one?
Yeah, I do. I think one of the things that I actually have experienced that probably, I don't know if I don't want to generalize, but a good chance that a lot of 50-plus-year-old people have experienced is being laid off. And I've experienced that twice. And that right there in itself is reinventing yourself every time. Let me tell you, I moved to Colorado in 2017 and I've been laid off twice, but that's where your determination and goal setting becomes in more so than ever. But how, in terms of the reinvent yourself, one of the things that you have to do right now is lean into technology. Lean into learning the Google Suite and Google Drive. Lean into LinkedIn. One of the things that I often have a battle with is my father is in that category, and we have he's a military man, great with networking, but we often clash about LinkedIn. And I'm like, man, you got to really trust this thing. And he's a government guy. He's like, I don't know about this, but listen, I can tell you from LinkedIn and kind of putting yourself out there, networking and using these tools, I've gotten 2 jobs that way. And it's not a matter of, losing who you are. It's just making sure you take the skills you already have and just kind of update them to kind of today's standards. Like, a Rolodex is the same thing as LinkedIn. You need to kind of look at the things that you used when you first were in your career that made you passionate, and what are those things today, and how do you translate those? Like, one of the things that people use was a planner. Okay, what people use now, it's Google Docs, it's a calendar, it's just things become digital. And I think it's one of the things that I have told I've kind of saw my dad do, and he's leaned into, because he's in that category, is just getting more versed in technology. I think one of the things you can do is having him be in the office and learn more about Google, learn about Skype, learn about Zoom, learn about just networking. It's okay to put yourself out there, and there are ways to protect yourself and be private, but at the same time, it's okay to use what you have, because that same passion's there. I remember my dad telling me how he used to take resumes and copies and go and hand them off in person at offices. That's no different than dropping a line into a mailbox in LinkedIn. Hey, want to have like a quick donut coffee on Zoom, want to meet you or network, blase, here's my resume, or vice versa. It's that easy, because people want to see the initiative. And right now, given the fact that we're in this crisis in COVID, I know hand on for a fact that recruiters are looking online to interview online. So getting your skills, being able to go and actually get a proper setup, and getting a computer, and getting the proper lighting and the camera, and being okay that it's going to take some time, but at the same time, there's so many ways to do it that are inexpensive and low budget, and in a way that are kind of going to be able to bring you to the next step without, you know, sacrificing, like, man, why do I have to go back 30 steps for what I've done in person? But you can take what you've learned and move that. It's just all about bringing it to the next level and using it and bringing it online.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I think this might be our last question, but what has your biggest deterrent been for reaching your goals, and how have you overcome that obstacle, or if it's multiple obstacles? So I don't know, maybe Caitlin, would you want to maybe start off with that one?
Sure. Thank you. Excuse me.
Oop, I think we're having a little bit of trouble hearing you.
I think for me, it's just been a lot of self-doubt that deters me from my goals, and, you know, wondering, is this what I want? Can you hear me at all?
Yes. Yep.
You can. Great. Sorry about that. Power's been going out all day. I think the biggest thing for me that's been deterring me from my goals is kind of self-doubt and wondering if these are the things that I want to be doing in life and the things that I want to be setting my time on. And so I think a comfort in all of this has kind of been that I can like Greg was mentioning, you can kind of reinvent yourself. You can stick with one thing, see it through, and if it doesn't work out, you know, you learned a lot along the way. You probably met some cool people, and then you can start again, and you can, you know, pick something else and, you know, go in a different direction. And I think having that as a fallback is kind of comforting in a way. Right now I'm applying to graduate programs, and I keep thinking, I don't know if this is right for me. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm going to learn a lot from the process. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And then I can, you know, try something else and take what I've learned and apply it in a new direction.
Great. So actually, Caitlin, just a quick follow-up with that. Someone else did ask about grad school. And how would you know sort of what to choose if you're interested in a lot of different things? I don't know if maybe that's been your experience or, you know.
Yeah, that is my experience. I mean, I think it depends on the program. I'm doing a research-oriented program, so finding a faculty member and a mentor that's kind of aligned with my interests is important. And I think because I have so many different interests, I'm kind of just having faith that I will be able to kind of craft my experience along the way. So I think, and like we talked about earlier, finding a mentor that kind of aligns with one or two of those interests is important. And then, you know, you'll adapt your interests, you'll learn and try to tie in some other things that you're interested in. And I know Mike can probably talk to this a little bit too. He created his own major. So I think it's probably the same thing of, you know, going with a program and then figuring out ways you can kind of weave in your other interests as you go. Oh, you're on mic. You're on mute.
There we are. Okay, we're back. Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, as far as like graduate programs go, not all of them are like this, but a lot of them are. It's the case where like you really are like tailoring the program to your own interests, like BDIC at UMass. It can be really similar to that. And so, yeah, I would say, I mean, as far as like the BDIC program goes, like, for those that weren't a part of it, every single person in the BDIC program at UMass has a faculty sponsor, which is somebody in their field who can mentor them and sort of like guide them which classes to take and sort of like which direction they want to go like in their fields and tailoring their education that way. And I would say those relationships and those people are so key as far as like paving your own road goes, because if you don't have someone to look to, you're just going in completely blind, basically. And so, yeah, the mentorships, the role models, are basically like the people who can show you like, okay, here's what you can be, here's what your identity can look like. You can take little pieces of different role models and you know, tailor it that way. Sometimes like only a little piece of a role model is or one piece of who they are is like going to be what resonates with you. So it can be really nice to have multiple as well to sort of pull from, and be like, oh, I love this quality about this person. I love this quality about this person. I'm going to try to emulate all of that, and put that into what I do. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I think all of these questions were awesome. And I think Karen is going to turn it back over for some additional resources that we have for you folks. And then we'll all finish up with a closing thought.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So a few career resources. So information through UMass Amherst, through the Alumni Association, alumni and students can get connected through something called Connect UMass. If you go to connectumassalumni.com, you can connect and chat with alumni. And you can also chat with all of the speakers here today. So I've started a discussion post on Connect UMass about tonight's event. So if you want to continue the conversation and continue the discussion, or you come up with more questions, please join us there. We'll be continuing there. We also have career counselors that you can meet with to get some career advice. You can also sign up to receive information about our events. And then all webinars, including this one, are available in recorded format with closed captioning. So we'll send out an email once we get the video posted to notify you when the video is available. All right. So now we just want to turn it back to the group and ask everyone to just offer a final thought on what you want us to think about as we're closing out and thinking about this topic.
I can start. I would say, as far as I feel like maybe a large elephant in the room are the times that we're going through right now. It's not obviously like a typical, like the world as we know it. It's a little bit different now. So I would say something that is going to be really key just for everyone, like moving forward, and as far as like reaching your successes during this time, is just practicing self-compassion. It's not always easy. Like it can be a bumpy road, and it really is for a lot of people right now. So I would say just being kind to yourself, being okay with taking things slowly if that's what you need to do, is going to be key, and just having hope that that you will ultimately get there and reach your goals as well, and remaining optimistic. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Of course.
I think piggybacking off of that, yeah, I mean, I think the compassion piece is really key, because I try to remind myself that not everyone has it figured out all the time, which is why we're having this webinar. So I think, you know, just knowing you have a network, or you have, you know, people around you going through the same thing, and just knowing that every day is kind of a new day where you can wake up and kind of recalibrate your compass. I think there's some comfort in us, that general sense of humanity, shared humanity in that.
Yeah, great. Who'd like to go next?
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
I would say that understand that life is a journey. And so you definitely want to just enjoy the journey. It is something where it may not be a straight path. There'll be bumps and, you know, valleys and you know, peaks along the way. But when you look back, as you know, Evan mentioned earlier, the fact that when you look back, we live our lives, or we learn from looking back. You know, you'll see that as long as you set some goals, whether you hit it or not, you've become a better person along the way. And so just being able to say, I tried, you know, I'd rather tried something and failed than never have tried at all. And so enjoy the journey, just try your best, and you'll make it through no matter what you decide to do.
Awesome. Thanks, Francois.
I'll
Everett?
piggyback
Yeah.
on everyone so far. And Francois, what you were saying about enjoying the journey, I think we all have to fall in love with the process more than our end results, no matter what. And Mike talked about these times are different, and we can set all kinds of goals for ourselves, but achieving goals doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be incredibly happy. Happiness is rooted in our joy, and our happiness is really rooted in being aware of our process of growth. And no matter, to me, I think our goals and all these things that we set, all the compass directions we set are really wonderful, but at the end of the day, they're just guides to get us on a certain path. Once we're on the path, that's where the true magic happens. And I think when we're on our path, my final piece of the puzzle is don't compare your path to anyone else's. Comparison is the thief of joy. And as you're setting your goals, you're setting your vision, you're setting your purpose. You know, if your goal is to have the tallest building in the city, don't go around crushing everyone else's building just to make yours look taller. Just work on your own building and appreciate what you're going after. It's not about other people's path. Get on yours and really embrace it and be aware of it and enjoy the process.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Greg?
Short and sweet. Stay true to this. Stay true to your heart and stay true to your passion. And believe you me, this is tough times now. I've been through tough times before, and I will tell you there'll be better times. So stay true to your heart.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to everyone for offering your advice and sharing your insights and being willing to answer all the different questions. Thank you to Joe for helping us to bring the questions from the audience forward. We appreciate the fact that you decided to make this interactive for us so that we could really have a conversation. Like I said, if you go to connectumassalumni.com, we'll be in Connect UMass on the main discussion board where we'll be continuing the conversation. So please join me and all the panelists there so that you can continue the conversation. Maybe we can share some different resources and things like that. So thank you, everybody. Have a great night. You are UMass. Have a great night, everybody.